Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Aries, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of September 2025. I hope you are well. I'm using the Night Sun Tarot for you today. So before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access via a link in the description box at the end, should you wish to do so. You can either come over to Selfie if you want to just get one extended. If you want to see them all, if you're looking for your sun and your moon and your ascendant or whatever, please do feel free to come over to Circle. There you can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost beyond the membership fee. But we also run classes over there in all sorts of modalities. And you can hang out with an extraordinary group of people, and they really are extraordinary. I don't think I give them quite enough props for their extraordinaryism. Anywho, if that's of interest to you, you know what to do with those links. Right, let's just flip the camera around here. I'll give these another shuffle. It's been a while since I've been here, Aries, and quite a lot has happened since I last spoke to you. So I have a feeling like I want to kind of switch up the readings a little bit, principally because I want to spend a little bit more time in trying to focus everybody in the present rather than what's coming up ahead. Now I know I'm reading ahead for the month of September, so there's going to have to be a compromise there somewhere, and actually at this point I'm not really sure how to switch it up exactly, but I think we'll just let the cards lead, right? That's the way to do it. So we will pull first cards for your recent past. Let's have a look, see what's been going on with Aries. It's the Magician. Okay. So we have the Magician in your recent past. What about current energy, please? Thank you. We have the Ten of Cups. And what about the energy of September, please, for Aries? Ooh, Judgment. Right, you've got quite a bit going on here, Aries. We've got an Aries card at the bottom of the deck there. It's Sun and Aries, actually, with the Three of Wands. Oh, I need a clarifying deck. I haven't actually... Alright, so we're going to go with the Wild Unknown. There's a lot of movement here, and that's quite interesting. Because Mercury has been in retrograde, and we have a ton of planets actually currently that are in retrograde. Pluto is in retrograde, Saturn is in retrograde, Neptune is in retrograde. Those two are important because those two are occupying your sign, and they are about to retrograde out of your sign and head back into Pisces for a short period of time. And I think any movement at all that seems to be happening during this retrograde period possibly may end up being slightly undone, ready to move forwards in a much more refined way once those planets start going direct again. But it's almost like you've kind of got to push it so that you've got something to work with when you're kind of working out what needs to be improved. Now, with all of this said, obviously Mercury retrograde has ended. Now we are in the post-shadow period. Mercury retrograde ended on the 11th of August. So we've got a lot more information to be working with than we had before, but like I said, a lot of the other planets are still retrograde too. So I like what I'm seeing here, Aries, because it's very much in alignment with this this powerful shift that you've been undergoing for some time now. I think there was a big breakdown for a while, but we're definitely in the construction phase. And I like this Magician here. I'm going to pull out some clarifiers before I talk about this too much, because the Magician very much is the I will, which is something that I think Aries can get on board with really quite well. But in order to create, in order to will something into existence, you have to be very, very clear about what you want. And I think the things that you thought you wanted a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago are so vastly different now. You've probably been working through a checklist of all the things that you don't want, and we all fall into that trap sometimes. It's much more difficult to visualize what you do actually want and put yourself in a position where you feel like you have it, right, as per manifestation and whatnot. I think you've been very much in the dreaming phase of this, the imagination phase of this, small steps being taken towards ultimately what that looks like for you, but it not quite being there yet. I think there's probably a lot of other things that need to happen before you get to that point. But everything that has happened along the way has been really important, really meaningful to get you to that place. So I'm going to stop whittering now and pull out some clarifiers and put some meat on the bones of this. So tell me about this magician, please. Wow. We have the Page of Cups. I like that. Oh, and we have the Two of Wands. Beautiful. Tell me about the Ten of Cups, please. King of Wands with the Five of Cups. That's very interesting. I've been seeing this pattern quite a lot of the tens being paired with the fives. Not so much in the September readings, because you are actually the first sign that I'm reading for here. But I've seen it with a couple of clients, and I've seen it very much in my own readings as well, for myself. Whereas the implication is there's some sort of profound shift from the instability and the chaos to the state of solidity and completion and whatnot. So very much like Five of Pentacles, Ten of Pentacles, Five of Cups, Ten of Cups. You know, there's a train of thought, right? You can't really appreciate the good things in life unless you have a real distinct experience of the other end of the scale, right? And it's like every time your experience is pushed in one direction or the other, somewhere on the scale, right? You're broadening your experiences. There's a beautiful quote by Lawrence van der Post, which I always murder every time I try and bring it to mind, but it's something like, it's a testament to the heights to which the human spirit can soar. The level to which the human soul can sink is a testament to how high it can soar, which is to say everything balances out in the end. So if you live this mediocre life in the middle where you don't really have too much awesome that happens, but nothing really ever goes wrong, right? You're kind of wibbling between those two lines. I think mediocrity is probably a little bit strong, but you know what I mean, right? But if you have, and you actually have, Aries, if you have experienced life down here, then you have unlocked the capacity to experience life up here. And I think this is very much where your mindset is at the moment. It's like, well, I know what it is to be in this space. I know what it is to experience loss. I know what it is to experience grief and pain and instability and emotional upheaval. And so I really, really understand when I have the opposite. Like, I can really lean into that, you know? Anyway, I'm going to not skip ahead too much with myself. Tell me about Judgment, please. So, I mean, fuck. What the words that I was about to say was, you know, clearly Judgment is highlighting September as a very, very important month for you. And then we have your card, the Fool, showing up. Let me have a look here on both of your cards. Hello. Oh, that is absolutely magnificent, Aries, right? We've got the Death card at the bottom of the deck. It's a card of transformation. In order for something to be transformed, there is a change of state, right? So we have baked into the idea of transformation that some things will end and some things will begin. And it's very difficult to delineate exactly where that happens, but it's usually something that becomes clearer in retrospect. I can see now in retrospect that this thing was fading out, but I didn't realise quite that it was the end. Or, you know, I could see actually that this thing that I was working on started back here, but I didn't really see it for what it was. And now in retrospect, I can see that they quite often blend together. Anyway, I am very, very excited, Aries, for what I see here for you showing up. Because it's a continuation of a process that you've been engaged in a long time now, and all the struggling and the suffering were the necessary preconditions for unlocking this higher state of being that seems to be coming in for you. So before I do too much more ADHD like bouncing around, let's start over here. Let's pull the cards where you can see them. That's good. So we start off with the Magician, and like I was saying at the beginning, the key to creating the reality that you want is having a clear idea of what that actually looks like, right? And particularly in terms of how it gels with what you feel, because when your feelings are centered around and your nervous system is primed around, let's put it that way, looking for the next shoe to drop. What's the next thing that's going to ambush me? What's the next thing that's going to go wrong? You know, is the next thing that happens going to be the thing that finishes me off? Which I think was very much in the Aries mindset for about 18 months while the Tower was coming and kicking your shit over again and again and again. Completely understandable reaction, and a somewhat amplified reaction of a mindset that was developed in childhood. We've talked about this before, right? Whether your parents were absent and you were left to, you know, more or less fend for yourself, whether that was emotionally or you know, quite literally, that independence in the Aries spirit, although it's archetypally present within Aries children. Aries children are amazing. There's something that absolutely you know, firmly establishes the need for that showing up in childhood. So it can be that way, or it can be having incredibly restrictive kind of helicopter parents who never ever give you an opportunity to get out there and experience things. You know, and they're, you know, maybe they're doing them for the right reasons, but the effect on the Aries child is one of, you know, huge frustration. I can't, right? And I is so important to Aries. Whichever way around it happens for you, essentially you end up in a situation where everything's about firefighting, right? This is going to go wrong. This is going to, maybe some of it is because you were a little bit chaotic in the past, Aries. But I think you really have unlocked that extra deep level of suffering, which means you've unlocked an extra deep level, high level, if you will, of bliss, ecstasy, the ability to be able to direct your own reality, but in a way that is not a big fuck you to everybody else in the world who would try and stop you from doing that, but because it is born of a creative impulse, it is born of a vision that you have for the future. It's born of maybe even a very, very subtle feeling that you have that seems to be dragging you in a particular direction. You know, you have accrued an incredible level of wisdom over the last year and a half, I would say. And now it's about how do I funnel that? Like I said before, Saturn and Neptune both being in your sign at the moment is really imbuing you, possibly the most powerful sign in the zodiac, right? Because of your ability to create something from nothing. You know, initiation always has a big cost, and Aries is here and ready to pay it, right? Because you can. But to have these two planets in there as well, it's just like so much energy around the idea of reality, but also what you can dream into reality. And Neptune, amongst other things, you know, talks about the dream, the imagination, the access to that which is kind of unseen, really. It's experienced, it's felt, it's understood in a way that is not cerebral. But it's what does Crowley call Neptune? Lord of the Invisible Empire or something like that, right? So we're trying to fuse these two things, right? So what you can access in your imagination, what you can channel down, and what you are actually capable of creating down here at this vibration, at this density. It must be a really amazing time to be alive for you. But I would imagine it's not come without its issues too, because that's a lot of energy to be fielding for one sign. Anyway, the point is, we've got here this Page of Cups, an initiation point, as all the pages are, because it's the first step of the ladder, which is the hierarchy of the court, right? So we've got a first step here. But in the case of the Page of Cups, So I'm looking at this here, and so much of this is based in hope for you. And I think that this is a relatively alien feeling. I'm looking at the rainbow reflecting back to what looks to me to be an ugly duckling, right? And so in that we've got a swan who has absolutely no idea of the level of grace and beauty that it will hold when it grows up. All it sees is it's not like the other ducks, and that makes it a source of discomfort. There's this sense that you're kind of on the precipice of realizing what it is that you are actually capable of achieving, what it is that you're actually capable of creating, more importantly. Rather than these associations, these Martian associations, which are, valid, of the warrior and the fight and the cutting and the slashing and the, all this kind of thing. I mean, like, what could I create, though, if I really put my mind to it? Rather than cultivating endings for ending's sake, or, leaning into the destructive because you didn't know any better. It's kind of like, well, if everything runs in cycles, then this act of destruction should result in some sort of corresponding act of creation too. And I feel like you are orienting yourself more towards this idea of creation than you ever have done at any other point in your life, right? But I think you're still coming at it from a place of not quite knowing what you're capable of. Now, the magician will tell us that we are bound only by the limits of our own imagination, right? So we've got Neptune in here imbuing you with an imagination that is so much bigger than you've played with before, particularly around creativity rather than self-protection, being guarded, having to look after yourself, having to be independent, all this sort of thing, right? But it's also got this element of hope in here, which is a totally new fucking experience for you, right? So there's a level of imagination now that's going on, which feels very, very expansive. But it's not something that's been fully explored by you yet. And so there is an uncertainty that is kind of floating around with it. But nevertheless, it seems to be colouring the decisions that you are making in the best possible way. Because, the whole fucking background of this card here is the rainbow, right? And it's the crossroads, it's the choice, it's the I could go this way or I could go the other. What are the natural consequences of following this path? But it specifically puts your emotional state and possibly your nervous system front and centre when it's saying, hey, you Aries, the ugly duckling, do you realise that you're a swan? Do you realise that you're a magician? Do you realise that you have a power that you can't possibly conceive of just yet? Well, of course you can't, right? Because you can't conceive of it. The sky really is the limit for you. But you have to allow yourself to go there. It's like, if your vision for the future isn't scaring you just a little bit, then it's probably not big enough. You probably have to go bigger. You probably have to go harder. You probably have to go more expansive than you currently are. Now, when we come to this Three of Wands here, because I do just want to dip over here, because we go from this Two of Wands to the Three over here. So we've got the internalized shift, the internalized recognition of being at a crossroads. I can go left, I can go right, or, I can go the third way that I've just invented for myself, because that would be very much, you don't take the path most travelled, you take your own path. This Three of Wands takes on a slightly different dimension when we read it in combination with the Death card, because the Death card is that transformative energy. We are shifting from one state into another. Now, the way that I'm reading this is not you are shifting from a state of internalized contemplation to external action. It's this internal contemplation is actually leading to a very different way of doing things than the way that you would have done before. I feel like the death energy is actually at work on the Three of Wands now, right? So this sun in Aries, the doing aspect of what's been going on in you internally, right, being externally expressed, is having some sort of overhaul at the moment. And that's good, because, what you were doing at the level that you were at before was fine, probably great, actually. But this different way of feeling, this different way of contemplating, this different way of all the internal stuff going on, imbued with imagination and imbued with hope, is now leading to a very different way of doing things outside too. And I think it might be, there's something kind of, hesitant is the wrong word. I don't want to use the word hesitant, but it's something that has elements of hesitation to it. And maybe actually it is that anxiety of it's quite big. I don't know if I can do this. I'm going to have to think about how to do things differently if I want to do this. That might be the thing that I'm picking up here, because I don't feel like you're charging ahead. But we've talked about this earlier this year, right? You're not kind of a chaotic whirlwind going over here and going over here and going over here. Like, what you've built up is stamina and discipline and commitment. There is something that has slowed in you, and something that is quieter in you now, because it feels very wise, and it feels very strategic. Actually, these are words that would show up, and they're also more concerned. There's more concern about what is stretching out in the distance in front of you than the usual Aries immediacy firefighting that I was talking about before. It's like, okay, strategic action moving forward, strategic behaviours, a different way of doing things. There's a lot going on here, but you're fielding it all beautifully, Aries. Now, when we move into your current energy, we have the Ten of Cups here, and I like this. For you, not least because it's a Mars card, right? Albeit it's Mars and Pisces. And we have the King of Wands, which is strictly Leo, but it's your king, so I'm going to give it to you. Where we've got this idea of, what I think the King of Wands represents, which is at the very least a sense of timing and strategy. It's like knowing when the right time to strike is, not just striking over and over again because you can and you don't know what else to do, which could have been at times the way that you would have done things in the past, Aries. It's like, no, there are some things that are worth waiting for. There are some things that are worth allowing to play out in their entirety. And whether that is the shifting internal experience that you are having and its corresponding outer expression, or whether it's an awareness because you're quiet enough to be able to hear that there are cogs turning elsewhere in the universe, with the end result of which you are going to converge with at some point in the future. It's like this idea of not rushing. You are not rushing. There's a patience about you now, Aries, which is fucking wild. I can't even believe that I'm saying it, right? You're not sitting still. There's a lot happening. There's a lot changing. Whether there are overt results to that other people might be able to perceive is probably a question that's neither here nor there, really, because you aren't really thinking like that at the moment. It's like all of this that is changing, all of this that is shifting. There's a tentative, there we go, not lacking in confidence, but a tentative exploration of what it is to feel differently internally and do things differently externally that's going on. It's imbued with patience. And we have what I was talking about at the depths and the heights going on here. I wonder if a huge part of this, Aries, is the idea that you're not alone. I wonder if this is what's playing out here, right? Because we have a collective here with the Ten of Cups. With mutual support, we have people all showing up in their most, emotionally evolved state that they're capable of, and they're all coming together, working together, supporting each other, right? Mutual assistance, mutual aid, all that kind of thing, right? Emotional support. In the Five of Cups, we have an absolute absence of that. We have the loneliness, sometimes bitterness, sometimes resentment. We have states of grief. We have states of loss. We have an emotional instability that's going on that is very personally experienced. And it's almost like that experience is difficult to share with other people because they're not going through it and they don't understand what it feels like. But it's the recognition that some part of you has been very stuck in that for the longest time. And I think what's happening here, what you're being very patient about and what you're allowing to play out, I think, and what perhaps might be the tentative aspect of this, is allowing yourself to open up to the possibility that other people can not just be involved with your shit, but actually assist. Now, you might say, okay, well, all right, I'm not at the point where I'm delegating tasks to other people, right? But I accept them being interested in what I'm doing. I'm not talking about that, Aries. I'm talking about you dropping the aspect of independence that is actually a trauma response to the need to always have to do things for yourself, where there was an absolute certainty in your own mind and in your own heart that no matter how much help you needed, no one was ever going to be there for you, right? So it's pull yourself up by your bootstraps, get on with it, right? But over time, what that led to was you hitting your breaking point and going, I would really like to pick myself up by my bootstraps, but I have hit the fucking wall and there is no one there. Now, the question would be, would you have ever allowed anyone to be there? And the answer was probably no, I think. But what's changing is the way that you relate to other people. And what you're seeing is the way that they are relating back to you. Now, I don't think that this is a process that can be rushed, and I think that you understand the importance of exactly what is happening here. It's an emotional overhaul, for sure, but I think you're really starting to get a handle on what it means to be part of a community, and you can absolutely retain your independence, Aries. I would never seek to take that away from you, right? It's one of your defining features. But understanding where it's independence as a strong, healthy expression of your fire versus a kind of isolationist, well, if nobody's involved, then nobody can stop me, or nobody can fuck me over, or nobody can, drop the ball when I need it. Kind of trauma response thing going on, right? And this is why I was saying right at the beginning that it felt like there was something so significant and so profound going on for you, but also simultaneously very, very subtle, very, very nuanced, because a lot of it is you controlling yourself, not situations, not other people, nothing like that. It's you controlling yourself, pacing yourself, and allowing what has been a, frankly, fucking electrified nervous system. I mean, the nervous system is electric, right? But I'm talking like lightning bolts running through it all the time. Hypervigilance and whatnot. Allowing yourself to get used to operating in a regulated space. That's new. And you can feel the benefit of it here. You're not kind of snapping back and being like, no, don't want to be a part of this. I'm going to get away from it, This is huge for you, and it would explain why you're looking to do things differently, right? The external expression of your action is taking a very different form because it's happening now in a different kind of reality to the one that you experienced before. When I say I love every aspect of this, I really do mean that, Aries, right? So we move into September and we have triple major arcana, right? So we can't help but notice that September is probably quite important. But more importantly still, we have both the Fool and the Emperor showing up. Now, these are both Aries cards within the major arcana. Different aspects of the Aries experience. Like the Emperor, I think, is very cool. My kind of shorthand for this kind of energy is the warrior in the garden, right? If you're not familiar with that, is it a proverb? Is it a Chinese proverb? Something like that, right? It's better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war, right? I feel like when we look at different interpretations of the Emperor, where we've actually got a physical person in it, a man sitting on a throne, he has all the finery of a royal position or an exalted position of someone who is in charge and important, right? All that finery, but underneath there is the armor. It's like there is the strength of the warrior there, but the true wisdom is in knowing how to use that and when to use that, because not every situation that you come across is going to require a warlike response. It's a very controlled sense of self. It's a very mature sense of self. But then the Fool is also here to say we are breaking free of an old idea of control, an old idea of sovereignty in one's own life, and it's being replaced by something far more powerful. The Fool is new beginnings, right? We talk about that a lot. The Fool is leaps of faith. But I think when you dig around into it, it is more a representation of just simply faith. Yes, leaping into the void, leaping across the chasm, taking that big risk. These are acts of faith. But is the act itself important, or is it the faith that underpins it that is the true message of this card? And for me, it is the faith that underpins it. And this is huge, Aries, the trust. There has been very little in your life that has shown you, I think up until this point, that trust was a valuable commodity in your own internal experience. That has shifted, that has changed. I mean, it's very much in the process of doing this right here, right? Or kind of reaching maybe its final form in you for now. So when you have a combination of trust and of faith, a certain openness to experience as per the Fool, right? And not tempered by traumas of the past, informed for sure, but putting down the baggage that is associated with that. And you combine it with this very powerful masculine archetype of capability. I can do things, but I also know when is the right time to do things. I know it's when it's time to be a gardener. I know when it's time to be a warrior. I know when it's time to sit in my kingly robes and enjoy, being in control of various aspects of my life. But I also understand when it's time to get on the horse and go to fucking war and chop, slash, burn, do all of that kind of thing, right? And these are coming out underneath the Judgment card. Now, remember, I said there was a crossroads that you seem to be sitting at the moment, right? And it was being informed by all of this new information about the way that you feel and the way that you see yourself and hope and all this sort of stuff, right? But also the importance of community and interrelatedness, right? Interdependence rather than, psychopathic independence, which is a trauma response and all this sort of stuff, right? This says to me that September contains life-changing moments for you. And the interesting thing is, as I'm saying it, I don't feel like it's one thing. I don't feel like, something that you've been waiting for a long time is just suddenly showing up. I feel like it is a succession of decisions that are made by you, right? Quite literally judgments that are made by you. That is taking a path that feels like it was made for you. Now, there's still that slight tentative energy about it because we're flying without a net now, right? And we might say that Aries has always flown without a net, but your net has been your self-defense mechanisms, right? Keeping people at arm's length, getting really enthusiastic about this thing and then just going off the boil because you haven't had the stamina to see it through, all this sort of stuff, right? But there's a very different experience that's happening here. And it's like one decision after another. The whole of September is filled with these little adjustments that a previous version of you would not, quite simply, would just have not been subtle enough to be able to discern what was the right response in this. It's almost like you had one response and it was on or it was off. Well, now you have a full range of different responses, and there's something about the energy here. I mean, let's not forget that September we're going to have eclipses, and this makes a big difference to trajectories and whatnot. Eclipses are big endings and big beginnings, but they're kind of like the warp speed where we can kind of drop into the eclipse, what they call it, the body of the dragon tunnel, right? And we get sucked towards something that feels much more destined for us. But whatever has needed to change before we get there has been going on for the last few months for you. So decision after decision this month is looking like you're employing all of this new energy and this hope and this trust and this faith, and it's one thing after another that even on their own they feel like important decisions, but the the combination of them all together feels like your life's about to head off in a very, very different direction, and not different to how you planned, because I think to some extent, like I said, you've been still working on tentatively on what is the expanse of what you can imagine and how does it fit with what Saturn says is actually possible. Like, you've still been feeling that out for a little while, whilst all of this other stuff, kind of learning to trust, learning to have faith, all this sort of thing's been going on. But I think you're going to be, this is all leveling up this month. So it's not tentative anymore. It's like, okay, well, that makes sense that it would be this. And if this is unlocked now, this is unlocked. And it feels like a climb, Aries. Going from this state of neutrality that you've been holding yourself at, rather stoically, I have to add, for the last year or so, working on yourself, developing this patience, developing this subtlety about you, or the ability to be able to perceive the subtle. But here we're starting the act of really climbing up from the point of neutrality. We're heading up and up and up and up. And you're bringing your full, true, authentic self with you. Not the defense mechanisms, not the coping mechanisms, but true Aries, the creative spark. It goes without saying that I'm incredibly fucking excited for you. But I think the novelty of the way that September is playing out for you feels like living in a dream, somewhat. Because there isn't the anxiety about whether you made the right decision or not. And if maybe you made the wrong decision, then you're going to have to go to war times 10 to be able to double down on some sort of decision that you made here, right? To justify the amount of effort that you've put into it. There's something very, very different about the way that you're doing things here, Aries. Very different. And it's not fast, but it's thorough and it's solid. I don't know. I mean, it could be that that things start to speed up over the course of September for you. But at every step it feels right, and every decision just feels right. And we might say that you're following your gut, but I think that you're following I think you're following something a bit more inspired than just your gut. And your nervous system isn't interfering and saying, no, you have to fight. It's like all of that Martian energy is being channeled into the next right move, and it feels almost like you've got something sitting on your shoulder, that is feeding you the right information that you need to make the right decision. And that's why it's got this kind of dreamlike feel about it. It's almost surreal, when you just know the next thing to do, and it's cool. This is very, very exciting, Aries. Right, I'm going to go over to the extended now. If you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. We're going to look at this specifically. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say any more because I'm just going to end up sitting here and talking for another 10 minutes. So I am going to leave it here. You can join me on Selfie, you can join me on Circle. The links for both are in the description box below. It feels like this is the point where you start to see the coalescence, right? And it doesn't look how you thought it did. Because there's something incredibly fucking fulfilling about this feeling that you've got, where you've been presented with a decision and you just know. and there's no lightning bolts going around in your head worrying about whether you're making the right decision or not. It's very calm. It's very, very calm. But it's very focused too. Oof, I love it. Right. Know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.